The Balakot strikes in retaliation to the Pulwama attack has been one of the strongest answers of India to Pakistan. The strike on the terror camps of Jaish-e-Mohammed, nurtured and protected by Pakistani military, was a befitting reply to the continuous cross-border terrorism that is propagated by Pakistan. If I was part of Pakistan's military establishment today, I would feel like crap. I would be watching that perfectly self-serving system developed to take advantage of every factor and circumstance crumble before my eyes. However, it was not the first direct assault on Pakistani army's proxies by the Modi government. Pakistani army has shaped the country's thinking, leadership, economy, society and history. Since the very beginning, army has controlled every aspect of Pakistan's polity and economy. Essentially, it has worked like a cartel. This cartel in Pakistan allowed the common man, poor and confused as hell, to elect its governments. The governments were a sham. The central government was based out of Islamabad but took orders from Rawalpindi, the cartel's headquarters. If the government dared to defy the cartel, they were done away with. The cartel had ample experience in this domain. They allowed the people to have a government not because they feared the masses, but because if the cartel ruled without holding elections, it would warrant sanctions. The Pakistani military is not an armed force but a powerful business organization too. A large number of businesses in Pakistan are controlled by former employees of the military. These businesses get government deals through their cronies in the government. Private wealth of the Pakistani military is around $20 billion, including $10 billion in land and $10 billion other assets. The military controls more than one-third of nation's heavy manufacturing industry and 7% of private assets. The cartel justified its existence by giving the impression that they were constantly under threat from India and Afghanistan. If such an impression had not been made, there would be no justification for the country to be a military state. The cartel didn't want to go to war with its neighbors because that would upset the royal lives they led. Besides, they had lost all the wars they had ever fought. The medals hanging from every general scholar came perhaps from Candy Crush tournaments. But I digress. They knew they couldn't win a war. They knew they couldn't even fight one. What they could do though was arm terrorists and foment separatism in neighboring countries with Islam as the ideological backbone. Their border guards could provide cover to these elements for safe passage. Once in a while, they could capture and mutilate an enemy soldier. This would keep the pot boiling. It was just enough to justify their existence but not enough to warrant a full-scale war. Once in a while, if they were lucky, they had very kind Indian governments. One such was headed by a spineless banker born on Pakistani soil, desperately looking to leave a mark in history by winning a Nobel Peace Prize. But 5 years ago, when a new government was elected in India, the Pakistani Prime Minister was invited to the swearing-in ceremony. The invite took the cartel by surprise. The other heads of the state in the region had confirmed their participation. Mr. Modi wasn't foolish enough to eye a Nobel Peace Prize. Having observed India's neighbor for decades, he was under no illusion that peace would be attained through a political solution. But just as any statesman would, he went out of his way to advocate a political solution. His swearing-in ceremony was a first of many. He continued to meet Pakistan's puppet leader every now and then. He met him at the sidelines of every international summit and even dropped by his house for a photo op. The message was clear. India was trying to reach out to the hostile neighbor. The cartel was cornered. How it would keep the pot boiling? It redoubled its efforts to irk India and maintain its erstwhile animosity. Mr. Modi was unfazed. He continued to reach out to the civilian establishment. One thing did change though. On the ground, India made it costly for the cartel to keep the pot boiling. Pulwama attacks faced Balakot airstrikes. Firing on the line of control was met with disproportionate retaliation, sometimes with Iran and Afghanistan pitching in simultaneously. Attacks on Indian bases were met with surgical strike. Separatism was countered by giving the army a free hand. Beheadings were countered by blasting off bunkers from the face of this earth. The attacks on the Pakistan's military continued, and this time economically as well. Fauji Foundation, one of the largest business organizations of the country, run by retired senior military officials of Pakistan, lists India as one of its major export destinations. The hike in import duty of cements would hurt the Fauji Foundation. The next attack was banning the Pakistani actors by All India Cine Workers Association who would earn money in India and pay taxes in Pakistan, which would further be devoted to the military. Economic warfare is one of the most effective ways to weaken any country. Pakistani economy is already very weak, with the country going for 13th IMF bailout package in less than 4 decades. In addition, Modi government amped up the diplomatic offensive against Pakistan. Since PM Modi coming to power, many countries including the United States and Australia have stopped aids to Pakistan. These aids were essentially lining the pockets of Pakistani military generals. US President Donald Trump's continuous pressure tactics, including denial of security aid to Pakistan, has adversely affected the Pakistan military cartel. Just this week, Trump decided to reassign the security assistance aid for Pakistan to the building of wall along the US-Mexico border. The cartel's biggest asset, Masood Azhar, was declared as global terrorist by the UNSC 1267 committee. For the cartel, this was a double whammy. Not only it faced humiliation, but one nation the cartel considered its true friend buckled under India's pressure. Pakistan's military as a business cartel failed to battle the meticulous planning by PM Modi. The regular denials of surgical strikes and even the Balakot strikes made the fear of the cartel evident. The isolation faced by Pakistan on global platforms like UN and OIC was a reminder that they have finally reduced to rubble. While this cartel, piece by piece, moves to an existential crisis, the Indian leader laughs merrily across the border.